5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Nice looking Wednesday. Hope you're doing well. Got a book I want to share with you, and you're going to pay attention to this one. This is heartbreaking and at the same time, just a great story. The book is called Surrender. It's a love story. It's called A Love Story to My Daughter. Not my daughter, but our guest's daughter, Lou Alpert, is on the phone. Let me see. Let's see. It was new for CNN and their audiences. Another sad story about the opioid crisis in America. I'm reading right now from Amazon. And a good-hearted policeman, but it was a 5-year reality for me and mine. That must be a quote. On December 1st, 2017, Lou Alpert woke to a CNN story featuring images of her daughter, Crystal, shooting up heroin in an alley, visibly pregnant and being confronted by an Albuquerque policeman. Within 24 hours, the story had gone viral, picked up by media outlets worldwide. Subsequent coverage followed, television interviews, news articles. Oh my gosh, let's find out about this. Lou Alpert is the founder of a children's book publishing house. She's a strong advocate of children. She's the mother of Crystal Champ. We're going to find out more about Crystal in just a bit. That's who we were just reading about. She's the founder of the Lakewood Service League and the co-owner of a women's art gallery. My gosh, you got your hands full. Lou Alpert, good morning, Lou. Thank you for being on the show with us today.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
Dallas.
Okay, Dallas. And your daughter was in Albuquerque when this all came down?
Yes, she graduated from college and College of Santa Fe and stayed in New Mexico.
Okay, how is she today?
She's clean, a year and a half.
Thank goodness. Wow. Did that news item change everything? Did you not know she was going through those things?
No, I knew everything she was going through. She'd been using since 2013. She'd already been through rehab once, detox twice. I knew she was living on the street. I knew she was pregnant. We texted, nonstop pretty much. I have 2.5 years of text just in the book.
And how many children do you have?
I have 8.
Oh my gosh! And where does she fall in with them? Is she the youngest, the oldest? Where does she fall?
No, she's she's like 4th from the bottom.
She's the 4th oldest. Okay. Okay. All right. So at the time this happened, you still had young children at home, or were they all grown? I'm trying to get a sense of what your family.
My children are grown. They're 29 to 41, and Crystal's 36. How
about the baby she was pregnant with? What happened?
The policeman adopted the baby.
Really?
And then, they adopted the baby, and the baby's in a good home. It's a policeman, has 5 kids. He's 27, so he has his hands full. But yes, they took the baby.
So take us back to that first, the opening scene. You're watching CNN. There's your daughter. You had no idea this was going to happen, right?
No, I knew she was pregnant. We were talking to adoption agencies. I was very surprised by the way events unfolded, because we had been trying to get her to go back to rehab ever since she started using again. So,
was CNN kind to her, or were they kind of cruel to her or anybody in her circumstances? No,
they were. I will say the CNN story, as hard as it was for me to watch, because there were two stories and another follow-up story and then another follow-up story. Mm-hmm. They were hard for me to watch because she was crying and all of that stuff. But they flew in an interventionist. He actually wrote the prologue to my book. And they convinced her to go to rehab. And she ended up in a very nice rehab called Mending Fences in Ocala.
Sometimes when families want to help their loved ones, when they have some kind of addictions, they don't really know exactly how to go about that, and then they end up pushing them away. How do you help them keep them within their grasp?
I think with me, I grew up in addiction, and so the first time Crystal started using in 2013, I drove out there and pulled her off the floor and put her in rehab. But it didn't last. And this time she was determined to go down this road. And the best I could do was I sent her phones so we could stay in contact. Phones don't last long. We're on Crystal 10 now, and we're hoping we'll stick with this one. I paid for hotel rooms occasionally. I did not bail her out of jail when she got thrown in jail, but, I was always, I continued to tell her I loved her.
So was Surrender, the title of the book, is that also a message to her? Was that what you were telling her, was to surrender?
I think when I wrote the book, I was very angry when I wrote the book, when I started writing the book, and I wrote myself to healing. But in the end, I had to surrender Crystal. I had to surrender all my expectations. And mostly I had to surrender my own ego that I think had gotten in the way.
Really? Explain that. Explain what you mean by that.
I took Crystal in when she was 16, and I had been sort of her angel. I was the one who took care of her and fixed her. And as parents, we have a terrible, terrible habit as parents of thinking we can fix everything for our children.
Yeah, right.
And in the end, I didn't fix her. It took CNN and a policeman and a lot of bizarre events to fix Crystal. And so it sort of knocked me. I like to say I was knocked off my cloud and my wings were cut instantly and replaced by a policeman in Albuquerque.
Looking back on it, was that actually a good thing, even though it probably hurt at the time? I mean, do you feel like you came out of it better?
Yes, I'm in such a place of gratitude now.
Yeah.
And honestly, for all of my children, it's been good for them because I really understand now what surrender means. I think all my life I thought I was surrendering, but like most people, I was surrendering while holding on to the pieces I still wanted to control.
I love your dedication in the book and also that you included the Serenity Prayer.
The Serenity Prayer is a big part of life, and I had been using it since I was young. And in the end, I was using it, but I wasn't really living it. Saying it versus living it were two very different things. And I think writing the book helped me get to the point that I could surrender. I mean, I haven't seen Crystal since 2013.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh, wow.
I hugged her goodbye at my door in 2013, as I have a million times with my kids, and said, "Call me when you get home." And I haven't seen her since.
So, but you keep in touch with her.
Oh yeah, we talk, and we will eventually see each other. But we're both healing. I mean, Crystal lived on the streets for 2.5 years. She has a lot of healing to do. She's writing her own book, and I know from writing my book that the healing comes in the writing.
Has she read your book?
Yes, I sent it to her before I did anything. She wrote an epilogue to the book, and I sent it to her first because I wanted her. First of all, she kept saying to me, "I don't remember," and I kept saying, "I do. I have it dated and time-stamped in text message." So it was good for her to read it to get her own vision and perspective. And she was the one who really was the first one to say, "You need to share the story because we need more voices to this opioid craziness, and we need a parent's voice because there aren't a lot of parents whose kids live. My child lived under bizarre circumstances, and so there's a side as a parent that I can share because my child's alive."
Yeah, right. That's yeah. I mean, there's no happier ending than that, right?
Well, and we don't. It's a crazy disease. It's hard to know, and what will happen in the future. But right now, she seems very dedicated to staying clean. She's on a good path, and I'm super proud of her. And like I say in the book, we all have expectations, and the expectations I have for Crystal's life aren't going to be what I expected. Heroin took that away.
Have you had feedback from other parents who are actually not skilled at writing or at putting together words, and are they able to maybe use some of your words to express to their own children similar feelings that you had?
I hear from parents because my key message to parents is don't do what I did. Don't isolate. I withdrew from the world and isolated, because when you tell people your child is living on the streets, they look at you like you're the meanest person on earth. And so parents don't talk about it, and they just pull into themselves, and that's what needs to change. We have to stop isolating and make this not a taboo subject. We need to talk about it and talk about what it's doing to the people living through it, not just the addict.
And that's what you've done so well. Your book is written in a timeline fashion. You've nailed every chapter with the titles that you've given it, but it's a very emotional read. It's not a textbook.
No, I wrote it quickly. At one point, Crystal said, I'm working on my book, and I hope to finish it in 6 months. And I said, Crystal, you know me. I sat down and wrote 50,000 words in a month. I wrote it in a very emotional state to get from one place to another, and then I didn't clean it up because it would have, I wanted the rawness to stay there for other parents.
So it says here that you're the founder of a children's book publishing house. Do you also write those books?
That was years ago. That was something I did 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I've had a lot of lives.
Okay. So what is your primary thing? What are you doing now? What is your main occupation?
I sell real estate, and I work at a school.
Oh, okay. And how are the other kids? Are they okay? Is everybody doing good?
All my other kids are fine. I mean, will they ever have a relationship with Crystal again? That's going to be up to each one of them.
Really?
They're adults.
Did they have a falling out because of her addictions and her behavior?
Yes. I mean, it was especially a couple of them, because they saw me. They saw what I went through. They saw me cry, and children become very protective of parents. And
right.
My kids are grown. I mean, I have a 41-year-old son, and I don't know what they'll do. That has to be. We're all triggers. I mean, I like to say, Crystal went down this road.
Right.
With family.
Did she ever confide in you, maybe something you didn't know about her past? Maybe somebody had abused her outside the family and you just found out about it from her? Did that kind of information ever come from Crystal herself so that you could maybe figure out what happened? Why she went down the path she went?
I don't know why she went down the path she went. I sort of do. I'm Crystal's third mother. She was put up for adoption at birth. Those parents gave her to me when she had just turned 16. I first met her at 15, and she moved in with me. I had one of those houses that kids come to.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up at my house one night, and she stayed for a while. Went back to her family at their insistence, and I had no legal right to keep her. And she went home, and they were involved in a church that took a tough love approach. And Crystal was a non-compliant teenager, as I like to say. She was sneaking out and not doing what her parents wanted her to do. So unique to teens. But they couldn't handle it, and at one point they put her belongings in the front yard and told her she didn't have a home anymore.
Oh my gosh!
And I think they believed her church was telling them this was a tough love line, but for someone who'd already been put up for adoption once, it created a sense of abandonment.
I bet.
Crystal ever recovered from, and I think it's why the whole time she was on the streets, I was stalking her addiction. I like to say, as I read our text messages, which I didn't really know I had in my phone. It was sort of amazing. I had 2.5 years of text messages. I thought when you deleted the numbers that, I didn't know the messages stayed there.
Oh, I didn't either.
So I'm really technologically sound. But every time I bought her a new phone, I would simply delete Crystal 1 and replace it with Crystal 2. But the Crystal 1 numbers and messages are still there.
Oh, wow. That's cool. I didn't know that either.
And I kept my phone, oddly enough. It looked pretty bad, but it's still the same old phone. So I had all those messages to go back to. But I kept in touch with her and stalked her addiction. I was as addicted to her addiction as she was to heroin. And I was the one calling 5 and 6 numbers and, doing that. So, I think that in the end, Crystal has crazy abandonment issues. And I tried not to abandon her. And I think that in the end, what kept her there. I met with the reporter for CNN who broke the story. He happens to live in my neighborhood in Dallas, which is odd again. And we had coffee, because I wanted to tell him, you blew up my life.
You also shared your own personal story with your sister.
Yes.
In the book.
Yes, my sister was an addict and had mental health issues and ended up taking her life when we were in our early 20s.
Wow,
and so you thought
horrible.
maybe you recognized some of the self-destructive traits in Crystal, so you were able to try to help her when she was abandoned.
Yeah, I would like to say it was that altruistic, but I think I was a young mother who just thought I could fix anything. And, I loved kids. I had 2 others who I took in. I had these 6 kids of my own plus a stepchild. I took in 2 others for 3 years. And, I was just at house. And when Crystal came in, I did believe I could help her. And I think I did. I think we gave her a home.
When somebody writes a memoir, it's one thing. When it gets published, it's another. The book just came out. Have you had feedback, and are you happy with the way it reads? And I guess what I'm trying to ask is, does some of the things you revealed about yourself and your family come across as things that you would cringe at other people knowing at this point? We had a guest on and the reason I'm asking this is because Robin had mentioned something in the book, and he said, I can't believe you brought that up. And I'm thinking, it's in the book.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, is there anything in the book that now that it's published that you're saying, oh, it was a little bit too personal?
No. I mean,
well, that's good. Yeah.
The book had to be written. I had to keep. I mean, if I wrote it today, would it be the same book? No. I'm healed a lot more. I've come to terms with a lot more. I think that I wanted the book to read in the emotional state I wrote it in order for people to relate to it and for it to hopefully help another parent.
So
I cleaned it up and made it pretty. It wouldn't have done that.
I got you. Now, did the book, I'm asking 2 questions in one here. Did the book serve as therapy for you? Did it serve therapy for Crystal? Did you guys have some kind of therapeutic after effect, I guess, of writing and reading the book?
Well, it definitely was healing for me. I like to say I wrote the book, not to publish it. I wrote the book because I needed to write something down to get a story, to get it straight in my head. I went back to medical records and jail records. I needed to have a true and honest look. I needed to see the truth of what had happened. And I needed to really get curious about why, when it all broke, I was so angry. I mean, I needed to get through my anger. And I think I was angry not just because I didn't control the situation, but I think I had kept so many emotions down inside of myself for 2 years of wondering every day if all was going to come that she was dead, that when she was in a safe place, all emotions just went, it just blew out. So,
how important are significant others in your life and in her life?
Explain a little more.
Do you have a husband? Do you have a husband? Does she have a husband? I mean, do you have somebody in your life that was a person who would support what you are going through, or what the kind of support you might need? Or did she have somebody that she needed other than obviously each other, you and her?
Okay, well, I have 2 ex-husbands and currently don't have one and don't want one. I have close friends, and I have 8 children, and they're all incredibly supportive. Crystal, at the time when she was on the street, the guy she was with went to rehab with her. He's now back on the streets and using again. So he didn't stay clean. But he wasn't someone I ever knew. He was more of a drug buddy she met on the street.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know if Crystal has someone in her life. I think her focus right now is on working a program, working with other addicts, and staying clean. She's still living in Ocala, and she's still working, at rehab centers.
She lives here?
Other addicts.
She lives I didn't know that.
Yeah, she went to Mending Fences in Ocala.
Oh, my gosh.
Rehab.
The story takes a whole new turn now. I had no idea. So she's listening.
Yeah, she's right down the street.
Is she listening right now?
I have no idea.
Oh. Does she know you're on the radio?
No.
Oh, wow.
But to be honest with you, I just was sitting here looking at it and went, oh, this is Ocala.
Well, there's a coincidence. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so she lives here right now. And we've had Mending Fences in the studio, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Mending Fences gave her the rehab I never could have afforded to give her.
Well, that's awesome. So they're a good influence on her then.
Yes, I'll always be grateful to them because I had sent her to rehab once, but I didn't have that kind of money.
Well, why don't you come to Florida and have a reunion?
Yeah, one day we will, when the time's right. And, the timing's all Crystal. Mm-hmm. The important thing is that through this entire experience, I love Crystal, and Crystal loves me. And there was never any debate about that, no matter what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And if I see her tomorrow or if I see her in 5 years, we still love each other.
Crystal, if you want to call in, your mom's on the phone.
And so, we still love each other. And the timing is her timing. And the timing is when we're both sort of there. Living on the streets for 2.5 years, I know she has lots of trauma to process.
And you've always been a part of her life. I mean, gosh, you wrote a beautiful narrative for her graduation. You did an online baby shower for her. I mean, you were always there. You never got discouraged.
Well, I won't say I didn't get discouraged, but I didn't want to be the third mother to abandon her.
Yeah, really. Well, it sounds like you're the one who stuck it out for her.
And how old is she? Oh, go ahead.
How old is she? Now, that's a tough one. I think 36. I always have to start from the top with my oldest child. The problem with having 8 children.
Yeah, really. Well, thank you for being on the air. I think your story is very compelling. It's a sweet story with a lot of moments where you wish you could go back in time and erase them. But I think that probably in the end, you and Crystal are both stronger and probably love each other more because of those things.
Yes, I think that experience is what makes us grow.
Lou, how do you have good reviews, by the way, on Amazon. So I know the book is on Amazon. Do you have a website you'd also like to recommend?
Yes, I have a website, loualpertbooks.com, and there's blog posts and things like that, resources for parents. So, yes, that's my website.
Very good. The book, again, is called Surrender, A Love Letter to My Daughter. It's a memoir by Lou Alpert. Lou, thank you again for being on the show with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Do we really want to import Bernie Sanders socialism into Florida? That's exactly what 2 bills in the Florida legislature would do. These bills replace some American prescription drugs in Florida with imported drugs from foreign countries that have socialized medicine and price controls. That's risky for Florida.